Valve did something, and as per tradition, if no one forces to do Valve anything, then it's a huge win for us. And this, I think, is one more of them.
Today, this is going to be a great video, right? Because publishers sometimes are a little bit naughty. Now, maybe they're not
Or flat out trash and shit, but yeah.
naughty because they're kind of bad, or maybe they just make a mistake and they have a plan where the business bigwigs think, oh cool, we'll sell.
No. Publishers make absolutely no mistakes. They don't. All of the bad things that publishers do are intentional. They don't make mistakes.
This season pass, but the developers are internally screaming, thinking, guys, we can't actually do that. The problem, though, is that means that customers, we get burned. And guess who also gets burned? Big Mr. Gabe. Because if you're running Steam and via incompetence or malice, your devs and publishers are messing around your customers, well, guess what? Now that's your problem. So this is very much a Steam consumer protection story, and it's one that is very Valve, because they've not went and hired a small army, right, of enforcers who are going to be patrolling.
Dude, say what you will, at the end of the day, Gabe is an absolute G, okay? Starting from 4chan, ending to whatever, Gabe is the man, okay? I would crawl in between the rolls that he has on his stomach and snuggle there for all eternity if I could. It's just that home.
Steam. No. Valve are a games design company, right? Now, the thing is, Steam, the actual platform.
Yeah, a games design company that can't count to 3 on average, but true.
It's game designed. They want to incentivize behaviors that are in their best interest. And that means, yeah, things that mean that customers feel comfortable purchasing, but it also means developers and publishers acting right. So let's get into this. Today's story is all about selling.
Actually, this is completely false, okay? Bellier is saying that Valve, the company, wants to make a lot of money, which is technically true. But Valve is one of those truly rare companies that has actually taken monetary loss. Financial woes have been created by its own decisions in supporting the end game of the consumer, aka us boys. And that is something absolutely amazing. Now, granted, all in all, this has accumulated in the fact that every gamer loves Steam without any effect, even though Steam does have a couple of bad things, and I have actually talked about them. The fact that they don't really strive for any innovation ever, that is the main one. But other than that, Steam is pretty much as good as it gets for us.
An idea, selling a promise of future content and how it goes wrong. What's cool though, right, is the last few times we've covered Steam stories, especially policy ones, it's Valve being forced by some sort of outside influence. As an example, there were the terms of service changes, which basically were to try to comply with a Californian law. There was all of the stuff with the big class action lawsuits, and that was all Valve responding to external stuff. But here, this is Valve designing their own game, changing the rules, and it's all about the battle passes. Now, this was first spotted by Paweł Janik, who is the Steam DB guy, who does awesome work over there. So what they've done is they've changed their policies on how season passes work. And for the sake of simplicity, so that we all understand what Valve actually means, here is how Valve
do it, Billy. Feed it to me like a child that doesn't have arms. I am ready.
Finds them. A pack of current and future content, brackets DLC, that customers can buy with a single purchase. So what's of note here is that battle passes.
Oh, this also, yeah, this battle passes, eh? I thought that this would apply to DLCs, like in the brackets. Because this is essentially, I can already kind of gauge what this is. Valve is saying, hey, if you promise the thing to the players, and people bought the game expecting X to happen, and then you're like, well, X is gonna happen, but you're gonna have to pay more or do something or blah, blah, blah. That Valve has the rightful place to throttle that company developer on their platform, because, hey, you can't go, because the idea is probably simple behind it, and it's very logical. It's the fact that, hey, we're Valve, we allow you, graciously in fact, to use our platform, sell your fucking slop on it. But if you create problems in your game while you sell it on our platform, that looks us That makes us look bad. Kind of pre-fucking mafia style, not gonna lie there, Gabe. But I'm up for it, okay? If you wanna be the ruler of the world, honestly, I am just a faithful servant at the end of the day.
Is where you've got to unlock rewards through gameplay, and like individual DLCs, those don't actually count here. What counts is when you buy a season pass, right? A whole package of things that is purchased before all those things release. And what's really cool is that we have got the full policy document, all of Valve's demands and requirements that developers and publishers have got to meet.
The best part about this, probably some losers like Blizzard are gonna say, no, this is too evil. We're gonna remove our games from your site if you do this. And they will crawl back begging on their knees after a couple of months, like they always do. Gabe's foolproof, bulletproof, amazing strategy of do nothing and wait until their opponents just shoot themselves in the foot is amazing. It's just perfect.
And on face value, this absolutely looks like a humongous win for consumer rights. But as always, it gets far more interesting when we dive into the details, and that's possible because of today's sponsor, who keep me protected.
Actually, it's not. This is an absolute lie. This sponsor probably doesn't affect anything that happens on Bellier's channel. 10 out of 10.
Platform, sort of in the same way as Advanced Access, where Advanced Access was a thing, it was a grey area, and then Valve said, hang on a second, we should actually have a clear label and a clear system so that people know what's going on. So from now on, before the purchase of a season pass, products must clearly detail these things. A complete list of all DLC included in the pass, so a listing for each of the 4 DLCs that are included. There must be a basic description of—
Oh, by the way, you know what no one talks about when Valve does this stuff? It's the most hilarious part that no one talks about this, but I have never sold anything on Steam, so I may be wrong, but the chances that I'm wrong are very, very low here. And it's the fact that if you sell anything on Steam, and you somehow break the rules, or Steam looks at something and says, "Hey, you need to refund people now." The fun part is Steam gets to take their profits, okay? But the refund gets done in full. The company gets to pay for their mistake. This is how a lot of products are actually run with distribution and whatnot in general. If you make a mistake, full refund, but we still get our share. And we, in this situation, is Steam. So Steam doesn't really lose anything here.
Of the content included in each pass. Valve says, and by the way, I'm reading their policy document here. For example, the first content release might be the Glitterlands expansion, new area to explore, 2 new weapons, and new enemies. Valve's document goes on to say it's not required for DLC to have a final name at the launch of the season pass. They say that information about the content in the DLC doesn't need to be detailed, so you can just say as a developer, new weapons, or 2 new weapons, or new zone. That is acceptable. You don't have to list the specific, itemized things. Now, they also say, and this is where it gets big, expected release date for each DLC. Quarter and year, i.e. January to March 2025, or season/year is acceptable. Of course, a date that's more precise is also fine. As an example, just any specific date in the year. And then there's a bit that I think is huge, right? A product must have at least one of its constituent DLCs actually released whenever it is offered. So that means that a season pass cannot be sold in such a way that if you buy the season pass, that's it. Right, there's no content right now. All that you've done is pre-ordered a bunch of future DLCs. That's actually not going to be allowed. Now, that being said, pre-orders of a deluxe edition of a game do get their own specific carving out in the rules. So obviously Valve aren't going to publishers and saying, hey guys.
Okay, I'm kind of waiting until he says the point. If you break these rules, people can demand a refund. And by the way, again, Valve is doing something for gamers that is absolutely huge, and we also never talk about it. It's the fact that previously, look at 10 years ago, 15 years ago, no one fucking did it. Refunds were not an existential thing. Okay, 1 in 10,000 people does a refund. At the end of the day, that's literally nothing for any game development company. But now, because of Valve issuing refunds, even in some cases, on their own head, people have learned to actually refund bad games and stuff like that. And so Valve accidentally has taught gamers that, hey, wait a minute, if I buy a game and it's shit, I'm gonna ask for that refund. I am gonna demand for that refund. If it's a buggy mess, I will demand for that refund. Valve has been absolutely pivotal in this process of people slowly learning that, hey, we need to actually demand refunds.
No more deluxe editions, because that would lose all of the money, right? So we'll have to treat that as a separate thing, but there's an other rule that is massive for us as gamers, as customers. Steam are codifying that if any listed DLC is cancelled, Valve will mandate refunds for the comparative value of the cancelled DLC to
Mandate? Oh my.
customers. Now, this is really good because, look, generally there would be some form of refund.
Well, okay, mandate doesn't mean that they're gonna force the refund on their own. Because keep in mind, again, Valve has done this, but Valve still kind of tells you to actually press the button that you want the refund. And that is very simple. Because, Valve doesn't want to lose money or anything like that, just because they're the good guys, okay? They're still a part of that.
Fund if a plan changed substantially. But the thing that actually matters is, can you trust that refund? Is it backed up by Valve's own rules? Here, it is going to be backed up by those rules, and that matters. Now what we can do is take a look at some recent video games to see who passes these rules and who fails. The devil is...
Dude, listen, no one. This is, by the way, huge because of what very, very simple reason. No company does not want to be on Steam, okay? Steam is where you're gonna make the absolute majority of your sales always. Doesn't matter what game you are, well, maybe except GTA 6, but GTA 6 is probably gonna be on Steam day one or something like that. Or it's gonna at least come to Steam like a month later or something like that, okay? But, pretty much everyone, except Rockstar, needs to be on Steam. And everyone understands that. So this is kind of huge.
Is always in the...
Because if you're a AAA company and you don't sell your shit on Steam, well, you probably are not making back those 200 to 400 millions that you spent on all the bullshit. So, yeah, good luck.
Details. So, Star Wars Outlaws just came out, and it does actually pass. The reason why is they have clear descriptions of the expected dates, there are clear expectations for the content, and there's a full list of everything that you get. Then we've got Space Marine 2.
Well, to be fair, this Steam rule is most likely absolutely not retroactive. And retroactive means that it gets implemented and everything before that point suffers now because of it. So, this is implemented, we move forward from this point where it applies.
Also passes the new test. Again, it's got all of the detail, even though they are just describing the cosmetic pack contents in generic terms. But then we've got Tekken 8. It actually fails the test. It violates Valve's rules. Now, Tekken 8 came under a hell of a lot of criticism from fans because of what is actually in its season pass. Now, actually, that's not why they failed the test here. Obviously, you're allowed to sell a season pass.
Okay, currently also I'm not hearing anything about what happens when you promise shit but you don't deliver. That's probably the part where Valve can issue refund. That is probably the part, because it can't be anything else. So if you think, if you're gonna try and abuse your customers, it's not gonna end well. Beautiful.
That's shit as long as it complies with the rules. But what they don't comply with is that while there is detail of the content available that fits Valve standards, there's no time frame, right? No time frame for delivery, and Valve are not letting developers sell undated promises in their store anymore. Then we've got Stalker 2, which sadly fails on all counts here, actually. The only thing that they describe whenever you purchase the Ultimate Edition is, quote, Season Pass, guaranteeing 2 additional expansions and any future DLC. Now, of course, detail-wise, Steam has left enough slack here so that as long as each DLC is labeled with new weapons, new enemies, new map, that would be acceptable.
Oh boy, the Tarkov devs are gonna be pissed about this, because they... because they have screwed people over with this. I wonder if Gabe actually played Tarkov and he's like, They fucked me over just now with their price bundles. I bought the 200 pack and now I'm not gonna get my stuff. Well, Tarkov, it's time to change Steam just because of you. It would be so, because this is Valve they're talking about, okay? There's probably someone at Valve who played a game that's on Steam, and that game fucked them over with a battle pass, a season pass, or a game pass, or something like that, and they were like, "Oh no, oh no." That's it. I'm going straight to Gabe. I'm writing him the email right goddamn now. And Gabe's probably sitting there in the same room and being like, why do you have to write me an email? I'm literally here. I'm so giant you cannot not see me. It's beautiful.
And that does mean that most developers are likely going to be fine on that front. And for the developers of Stalker 2, well, they basically just need to get their ducks in the row so that they are in compliance with this. Of course, I'll definitely say, on a personal level, I mean, I know that Stalker 2 has came out, it's had performance issues and all of that, but my god, like, very few games are developed in the, broader environment that Stalker 2 was developed in, so I'm absolutely going to cut those guys some slack. I mean, I think it's only fair. So obviously, in the topic of release dates, there's a reason why most announcements have got the legalese of, quote, dates subject to change, right, in the small print. So Valve are not going to be completely ruthless with developers here. They are giving developers flexibility to allow for delays and development problems because, well, Valve are also game developers. I'm pretty sure they understand that keeping to a development timetable is hard. They run in Valve time, so they take that into account, but they do have rules and punishment. So here it is. If developers cannot make the 3-month window that they set for their DLC, they are allowed to move that DLC to the next 3-month window. But if it's anything more than that, they can't do it in the Steam backend. They can't click a button. They need to negotiate it with Valve, right? So they basically need to get a meeting with the principal and explain themselves.
So yeah, essentially, this is not something you can just easily put on paper and all the rules are going to be perfect and whatnot, so this does make a lot of sense.
And if that DLC is delayed past the 3-month point, even if no customer has complained to them, then Valve will actually consider action. And of course, that is action that, will hurt the developer's bottom line. That means that there are clear consequences. Valve's framing to developers and publishers is clear. A season pass is a commitment to future releases, and it's one that they want as a contract. Here's a quote. If you aren't ready to clearly communicate about the content included in each DLC, and when each DLC will be ready for launch, you shouldn't offer a season pass on Steam. So if a 6-month window for release isn't enough, Valve will actually consider that to be a breach of contract between developers, Valve, and customers, and as a punishment, they will actually take action. Here are Valve's punishments. The season pass may be removed from sale. They also say all unreleased content may be refunded, or customers may get the option of a refund for the whole pass. And the same will actually apply if the season pass hasn't released for 1 year as well. And the ultimate point here is that customers will not lose out because a developer cannot meet their promises. Of course, promises the developer has sold to a customer. That, to a lot of developers, will sting. It will feel harsh, but you know what?
This is not going to be harsh because you're going to have the option to actually talk with Valve. So unless you're like a scummy shitlord AAA developer who's offering, well, unless, if you're not Bethesda, you're probably gonna be fine if Valve doesn't sense that you are actively trying to screw people over. But if Valve senses that you actively are trying to screw people over, it's probably gonna punish you. Because keep in mind, everything that Valve has laid out in these rules is completely arbitrary. The punishments are known and understood. The reasons why you can punish are known and understood. But the choosing of the punishment is completely arbitrary at this moment. AKA, Valve pretty much reserves complete freedom to at any point say, if you have broken any of these rules, yeah, you're gonna have to pay, you're gonna have to refund people now, and we don't care. They don't even have to give reasoning effectively. This is just a purely consumer thing almost. At least it sounds like it, because I can't find any underlying, like, oh, we're gonna extort you now type of deal or thing or something like that. This just seems purely like Valve on their best judgment are just kind of consumer protecting here, which is crazy.
This industry has been damaged so much by commitments to players just being fast and loose and not being respected. And that's why games discussion and culture is such a flippin' mess these days. So let's talk about games that will fail this criteria. Redfall! Yeah, Redfall, remember that? That's a recent example where, because Microsoft shut down the development studio, there was simply no plan to make the Season Pass DLC. Now, obviously, Microsoft did offer refunds there, but it was initially unclear if that would be the case, as Microsoft framed that a make good offer was being worked on, which, in that case, it's gotta be money, or I'm saying no. Now then there's 10 years ago, Assassin's Creed Unity. That saw Ubisoft have their release pass removed, right? Removed from sale because of the game's launch issues, which at the very least were pretty damn funny to watch. Now in that case, Ubisoft still did commit to releasing their DLC regardless, with all of the Season Pass owners getting that as a part of their purchase. Plus, everybody in the community actually got the first DLC, and then Season Pass holders got a free Ubisoft game to make up the cost. So that was them trying to navigate the situation. But obviously here, with Valve, well, a developer doesn't just get to say, take this instead. No, it's got to be what you promised, or else Gabe's giving people their money back. And speaking of development shit shows, we gotta talk about City Skylines 2. City Skylines 2's expansion pass, Waterfronts, completely meets all the criteria for listing a Season Pass product on Steam, right? They have got clear descriptions of what the content is, actually far more detail than is even required, and they do have clearly marked dates for, the initial sale of it. As an example, right, the Bridges and Ports DLC was marked as releasing in Q2 of 2024. However,
oh god, this is why I don't want to buy City Skylines ever again. Because look at this DLC. Creator Pack, Modern Architecture, garbage. Urban Promenades, garbage. Bridges and Ports, probably kind of decent. I don't know. It's like all of this is just, who honestly even knows what you're supposed to buy, and it's not garbage.
The astute among you may notice that it's actually Q4 of 2024 right now, and that expansion has not released. In fact, in February, to ensure wider game stability, it was updated to have a release window of Q2 2025, which I will say is what that developer should have done. Because look, if your foundations are absolutely shot through, destroyed, what business have you got building something on it? No, you gotta fix the real problem first. But you can't have it both ways. And so in doing that, you should hand people their money back, with a plan to earn it back later. And this actually means that what they've done in City Skylines 2 would land squarely within Steam's policy of being more than 12 months since the intended release date if it doesn't hit by then. Now, the reasons why the DLC is delayed is obviously that stuff that we've covered in a lot of detail here, and I think broadly everyone watching this video understands they've got to fix the real problem first. I mean, don't sell people stuff when the thing they've already got is shit. But the problem with a Season Pass is that many people have already paid for that DLC. And so if we take a look at Valve's rules, guess what? You gotta give some of that money back. That's gonna sting, but guess what? It is goddamn right. And because Valve are the biggest marketplace in PC gaming, well, they are setting the terms of the market. They are drawing a red line about what is acceptable.
And again, I just want to remind everyone, Microsoft wanted to buy Valve for literally pennies. Like, a couple of billion. Literally for the whole goddamn PC marketplace. Insane.
A lot of developers are going to, I think, look at this and say, right, in spirit, as a developer of games, a player of games, this is really good. But they will then think about the currently broken funding model of video games, which is completely biased towards publishers, is completely biased against developers, and they will be fearful. And in their fear, they may lash out a bit, right? They may be worried because it's their livelihood, but bad things have to stop. And
Oh, actually, this is also an interesting factor because of these Valve rules. Do gaming companies have the ability to sue the publisher if it's because of the publisher's fault something happens like this? Probably. Interesting.
company that cannot keep to its
Okay.
promises should go under. At the top of this video, I highlighted that other changes Valve made have very much been responding to things. I mean, hell, even take a look at Steam's industry-leading refund policy. That happened because of Australia. So, I suppose for once, in video games, thanks Australia. Because if you're an Australian gamer, oh, it was a long time
I mean, the Australians are probably telling, yeah, no problem from their internment camps because Australia is a shithole.
where if you wanted an 18...
What do you want from a prison colony of Britain? Britain's currently even worse. Do you think their prison colony is gonna fare better?
rated game, oh, the government weren't going to let you have it. But on reflection, what I said at the start of this video isn't actually right. There is no outside force from a big authority. No government saying, no senator getting up in, I don't know, the Senate and saying, season passes are messing up gamers. That's not happening.
Okay, stop, Billy. We get it. Steam is awesome. 10 out of 10. That was Billion News. Bye-bye!